This icy fairy look is a perfect combination of sparkle, ice, and a little bit of creature. But before we slap on those prosthetics, we're gonna have to build a costume. Thought some sort of icy top would be cool. Heat up some clear Worbla on a form and pretend like I know what I'm doing. Not even gonna try to make a proper top. Figure could just worry about making a front piece and have a waist cincher hold it in place. Wanted it asymmetrical, decided to create an icy shard with twisting the plastic. And some smaller ones because more is better. Ended up making even more of these pieces. Now I like these, but they don't look like real ice. And the hot glue method of making icicles is wonderful, but it always kind of bothered me that it was never really truly clear. So let's make some with some UV resin. First, gonna start out with a basic shape. These look okay. The real trick is adding even more resin to the piece. This is gonna make it 3D, and you can even get a cool drippy effect if you want. Just made a ton of these to use as details. Now, not a huge fan of this blunt edge on the top. Use resin to create a more fun look. Added some sparkle in the inside with glitter Mod Podge, but let's be honest, that's not enough. Bring in the chopped iridescent flakes. Much better. Now let's go ahead and add those icicles. Since it's water clear, this is a detail that a lot of people probably wouldn't even notice. But personally, I think it's worth it. There's so much work going into the costume, I wanted to use prosthetics for this look. Probably way more creaturey than a classic fairy. They're cold foam pieces, just trim them up and prep them with latex. I also have to keep the face and ears in mind when building this headpiece. Just heating up that same plastic. Now to make some large ice shards with long triangular shapes. Just heat them up and close them into a cone. Did a little twisting so it caused some bends and made it so they weren't too perfect. Did more of that drippy treatment on the headpiece. Added the ice spikes with hot glue because it was gonna be way faster than using resin. More of that drippy texture and glitter Mod Podge. Ended up coating the whole thing in a thin layer of the resin, and it really helped to make the glitter pop. Now it's not a fairy without wings. Had a rough idea of the size wings I wanted. I originally wanted to create more detail in the paper, but my Cricut is currently at a different location, so I don't have it here to do all the work for me. We're just gonna stick with basic spine shape, but do really wanna revisit this and make some more intricate wings later on. Using clear vinyl and iridescent film, this is a widely used method. I've never done it before, and I didn't even look into the best way of attaching the wire to the wings. So we're just gonna figure this out as we go. The initial wings were super light, but flimsy. Use some plastic to stabilize them and to add the wire. I taped the wire to the plastic. Let's just pretend that does not look terrible. Reinforced that bottom U and wrapped it in some duct tape. Okay, back to the wings. This is an icy look. So use some white to create a frosty texture. Figure that could hide the tape and the wire. Hot glued the panels on, and now I'm totally hating that stark white spine. Let's just cover it in glitter. If only this was the solution to all life's problems. Added some icicles to the film. Even added some of those pre-made ones as a little extra detail. And yes, this did make them heavier, but that's our little secret. Had a plain white waist cincher to hold the wings and the ice top. We can do better. Added some blue and sparkle. Still felt a little plain. Used some rhinestone fringe instead of the resin icicles. Because one, it probably wouldn't even be noticeable. And two, they are fragile.
Fragile.
And adding them to an area that's supposed to bend, well, that's a headache waiting to happen. My hands and arms are bare for this look, and I really didn't want to spend a whole hour getting them up to snuff when the makeup was done. So let's try out some nylon gloves. Also wanted some long ice nails. Just added some glitter and glue to the end of the nails. Since I was planning to use the UV resin to glue the nails onto the glove, I ended up putting latex on my fingertips. That way it will keep it off my skin. Using a white glove for a base. Airbrush teal and blue, nothing crazy. Because I have to paint this on the other side. With my non-dominant hand, feel like a cat in socks airbrushing with my left hand. Okay, not bad. Now the nails. full creature hands, I can just throw on the day of the makeup. Can't forget that satisfying latex peel. The only thing about the gloves is they end in the middle of my arm. Don't really like the idea of having such a stark, straight line, and I don't want to put the gloves on and be painting trying to blend it in. Wanted to make a rhinestone design to glue over top of that edge. Added a mesh material to glue to. Applying this on a silicone mat so I'll be able to peel it off. Did a couple coats of glue as a base before adding more. Decided to go with the iridescent, so it would go with the fringe detail on the cincher. Then spent 2 hours hand laying these. And you don't even see them in the video. And only in a couple photographs. These will be returning in another look. It's just way too much work for such short airtime. Now the back is super sticky.
Stop.
It seems silly to powder it only to re-glue it on the day of the makeup. So thought wax paper would be a good way to protect it and make it easier to trim. And that way I could just peel and stick it later. Trim it up, it's looking sharp. So that whole peel and stick idea, well, the wax paper I used was palette paper. I did a small test and it peeled off fine. This was a great idea, in theory, but apparently after a few days, the paper does not want to come up. I'm just happy I checked this before starting the makeup. Had to use water to gently rub the paper off, just ended up adding glue on top. Now for the makeup. Throw on a bald cap, get the ears and face glued. Blended in the edges and covered it all in Beta Bond so it will take the paint better. Now cover myself in the least favorite color for me to work with.
This is the worst.
Luckily, I'm not worried about this being 100% smooth coverage. Using the same blue and teal that I use on the gloves to shade. Starting with the teal, hand paint the deepest parts of the sculpture. It's fine, it got a little messy. Just lightly sponge some white over and clean that up. Add soft shading all around the face. This character is really a combination of all of the costume pieces and the prosthetics, so I wanted to keep the actual paint job pretty simple. Use the blue color as the deepest shade. Sponge some white for some breakup in those larger shadow areas. Blue pigment blended around the eyes. Rhinestone and glitter for some more icy magic. Even though this is a fairy, the face definitely has some dragon vibes. And I feel like we could go a lot bigger with a true dragon look. So be sure to head over to the next video and I will see you there.